Hey, Femme. Guess what, guys? We've got a very exciting guest today. Arguably, today's guest is our biggest guest, our most well-known guest. And his name is Cameron Monaghan. If you don't know off the top of your head who that is, he was Ian on Shameless for 11 years, I believe the show ran. So that's a big deal. But he's also done a lot of other things, and he's just an amazing actor. He's been acting for a really long time. And in this episode, we not only get to talk about that, we go on a whole tangent, which you'll see. But he was a real delight to
As we
talk to
do,
you.
as we do.
Yes, exactly. But he was a real delight to talk to you about the acting process and, how he really handles tough material. And he is here today promoting the film Paradise Highway, which I mentioned this several times in the episode. I'm just going to mention it again right now. If you have not listened to last week's episode with Anna Guto, she is the writer-director of the film. Please go listen to that as well. We get into some really cool stuff with her. But the film just was released last week, Paradise Highway, in select theaters and on-demand streamers. Check it out. It's a really important film. And our chat today was, like I said, just lovely to really get into the process. We love talking to actors.
Woo woo! So, guys, tune in, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Well, thank you, Cameron, for coming on to chat with us today. We're super excited to talk to you about a lot of things. We personally love having actors on the show too, because while this is more so a show about like filmmaking, we are actors. Like we are actors first. That's how we started. That's our passion. So we love talking to other actors.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think there's an old cliche that actors love talking about acting and talking to other actors, but I think it's true. I mean, I don't know. I do really like other actors. Most of my friends are actors, and I always enjoy talking about the process and what we do.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, every time we get an actor on our podcast, and hopefully you'll feel the same today, they're just like, man, like we got asked all these questions, like questions that I feel like you don't normally get in an interview process, because we can relate to just all the different ways we go with how we get ready for a role or how we collaborate with a director. There's like all these things that I think even if our listeners are not an actors themselves, they can get some takeaways on how to work with different humans, essentially, different types of humans and how they work. So yeah, we're excited to kind of nerd out with you today on that end for sure.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And so we'll definitely get into Paradise Highway, but I want to start kind of from the beginning. I hate to say, just tell me your story, but you started acting really young. So I'd love to hear kind of what it was like to be so young in the business. And I mean, even, you had a lot of stuff before Shameless too, but that being so big while you were so young as well. I'd love to just hear about that.
Yeah, so I recently realized that I've been on screen for over 20 years at this point. I shot my first movie when I was 8 years old, and I've been able to kind of grow up with on-set experience, which is an honor that I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to have. I know a lot of people don't. I first I got Shameless when I was about 15, soon to turn 16. Obviously, I worked on that show for 11 years. So I was like 27 when we finished. And that was a pretty amazing thing. Yeah, to go from 15 to 27.
Yeah.
Our kids on the show, I call them the kids. They're not kids anymore, but they'll always be the kids to me.
Yeah.
They were 8 when we shot the pilot, and they're both over 21 now. So it's it's wild.
Yeah. And like specifically with Shameless, because I mean, I watched the show while it was running. I was a big fan. And like to see your character Ian go through not just everyday teenage growing up stuff, he really had some heavy stuff to deal with. And like, how was that for you? By that point you were already a professional actor, but like to deal with that still as a young human being, that like really dark stuff, and not only to play it as an actor, but to kind of, wrap your mind around it and not get caught up in it and not let it affect, your real life, because we see that happen with actors of any age when they have to deal with some really like heavy content.
Yeah, I think that I'm very lucky in that the roles that I got when I was younger, even prior to Shameless, but especially with, Shameless, and I was working on a show called Gotham at the same time as well. Those stories weren't just about like being a teenager. They weren't high school shows. They weren't
Yeah.
really about high school. They were about being a human being. They were explorations of characters and of situations that were heavier and more complex than just the goings ons of high school drama, which is not to say that you can't tell interesting stories about that stuff. I mean, some of my favorite
Sure.
movies are like whatever 10 Things I Hate About You or something like that. But I'm very lucky in the sense that I wasn't on like a CW show or something like that. Again, no offense to that stuff, but I think that on a day-to-day basis, a lot of times that can be very unfulfilling as a performer. And I always felt myself being challenged and fulfilled as a performer working with this pretty wild subject matter and strange and challenging stuff. I'm very lucky that my own personal interests with performing, with acting, were something in me from a really young age. And I never really lost that interest. At the end of the day, I find it a joy to be on set. I find it a joy to be able to devote my time to understanding character, understanding story, of playing this stuff. I think that it's what I know and what I feel comfortable in, and I'm very lucky that I've gotten to do it so consistently for so long. So I know that for some young performers, you can call them child actors or child stars or whatever. They can feel disenchanted by the work. They can feel like they were forced into something or they lost themselves somewhere along the way. And I think that I was in the context of stuff that I've always enjoyed. And I also have such an interest in it in my own terms that I don't know. I never felt that way. I've never had that moment. So yeah, all I can say is that I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does sound like such an amazing opportunity. Like you said, a lot of times, especially younger actors don't really get that opportunity to get that like really gritty kind of material so young. So yeah, being exposed to that younger is like, it's such a cool experience, I'm sure. And yeah, it sounds like it really did prepare you then for those sorts of roles moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting with a show like Shameless. So much of the content is I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
It's explicit. It was an exploration of like uh sexuality and humanity and um finding self and self-expression. And I think that that was kind of an interesting thing of being 16, 17 years old, and
Right.
kind of everyone is exploring that for themselves around that age. And
Yeah.
having this kind of safe context to be able to work out these issues in kind of a grand way was honestly pretty amazing. Challenging, certainly. I think that it's very challenging for any young person to be in the public eye. um
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're all figuring out who we are and what we want. And you know when when things are put out there in the world on that scale, it feels like everything is this statement of like, this is what I am all the
I
time.
was just gonna say, like, this is your identity now.
Yeah,
And it's
and
like,
it's like no one knows what their identity is, and that's shifting and changing, and it should be.
Absolutely.
I feel even I'm, I'm 28, soon to be 29, and I still feel like that identity is constantly being found and it's shifting and it's changing. So God, when you're 16, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's something I always wonder about. God, I'm gonna sound like a dinosaur or something. I'm gonna sound like an old man, but like with like social media, you're kind of like you're branding yourself in such a major way with like I'm this personality, I'm this
Right.
person. You're setting down
This
this
is what
flag
I
of
do.
this is what I do, this is what I am, this is
Mhm.
what I stand for, this is what I it's great to be able to express it in that way. But I sometimes wonder about the pressure of that, a lot of times people are on, whatever, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, they're 11, 12 years old. And,
Yeah.
a lot of them find tremendous amounts of respect, success, which is amazing.
Mhm.
It is amazing. But it's a bit concerning as well. And I
Yeah.
hope that people are checking on the mental well-being of these kids is all I can say.
Does he
Yeah.
not know our next feature film, or does he not know the message?
We're
Like,
working
that's
on a feature
something.
right now that is really kind of centered around like how technology in general affects mental health and the
Oh,
advancements of
wow.
that, and how
Like,
it's
are we like, because technology is great. And like you said, there's some great advantages, but I think we need to question the safety measures that we have to protect our own brains. I'm so scared to have kids one day if that
Yeah.
crosses it, just because like, what do you do? Do you take them out of the world? You can't, because this is how everyone operates right now, is through social media and like all of that. But also like, I don't know, at what age is it okay? And it's just like, yeah, I'm
Well,
not even ready to have kids, but I'm like thinking about, it's forcing, like delving into these topics with Tessa for a feature. It's like forcing me to like really see all this stuff very clearly.
yeah.
well, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to see. I think that there's something we haven't really fully acknowledged, that what social media is it's designed to be addictive. It is
Yep.
essentially an addictive substance for,
Yeah.
it hot wires our brains to release a hormonal response of satisfaction, of conflict, of joy, of all these things whenever we interface with it. It's
Oh yeah.
essentially we're giving ourselves a little neurological hit every time that we utilize it. And I don't think that we've acknowledged yet that we are, as a society, addicted. We
Yeah.
are addicts. I know I can speak personally that like I've definitely had to kind of reevaluate how I use it, because I found myself just constantly opening up these apps and
Yep.
scrolling to the top, and I would just keep refreshing, and there was nothing new that was happening. Like the order of it would just be changing,
Yeah.
but I would
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
refreshing it. And I
Yeah.
realized how addictive that was, and I realized it was a problem when every time I would look down at my hands and the app was opened and I didn't ever realize, like, I don't remember opening it. It's just
Yeah.
there.
All of a sudden you're like staring at it and you're
Yeah,
like, how did I get here? And it's because they decide pop-up notifications to trigger you,
of
and
course.
like little things. And I just want to pull up this quote on the lines of what you're saying,
Mm,
because it's so good. And it says, by Edward Tufte, from the Social Dilemma movie on
mhm,
Netflix,
mhm.
doc, so
Oh yeah,
good.
it's great.
There are only two industries that calls their customers users: illegal drugs and software.
Yeah.
So it's just there. Like, it's just really interesting. Like, we've noticed when you dived into it that like, yeah, it's made to addict, grab you away. And now with our features, like main premise, surrounding it around, what am I going to say, toxic relationships,
Mhm.
and how like easy it is to access someone these days and really get, cyber stalking, all that. It's just so available. We're so easily available to tap into each other's brains. It's frightening.
Yeah.
So
It is. I mean, it's
yeah,
it's a difficult thing because it's like I think that all of us can acknowledge how there is such a I mean, it's a wonderful thing that we have connectivity across the,
totally.
the world, that people have access to information in a way never seen before, that we have the, the availability of opportunity, of knowledge
Yes,
of these
yes,
things.
yes, yes.
I think we all can acknowledge that that's a great thing. But it's about trying to interface with it responsibly if you can.
Mhm.
We don't even know what that looks like, and I
Exactly.
do wonder, like, I think that we are just going to have some mass psychological some psychosis of that we have not necessarily identified yet, that uh, 2 or 3 generations from now, knock on wood, hoping that we exist in 2 or 3 generations, I guess we will.
Right.
They're going to look at us and be like, boy, they really did not look after themselves, like, at all. Like,
Right.
my
Yeah.
God, what was going on with those people? So hopefully we can course correct and try to figure out what it is doing to us. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that this is a question that is much bigger than me, so hopefully you guys can explore it in ways that are more eloquent than what I have.
Yeah. I mean, it's
No, for
interesting
sure.
too to be in this world as an actor because, like you were saying about like kind of, branding yourself on social media is
Hmm.
kind of the way to curate, I guess, the biggest audience and, get yourself up in the algorithm and everything. But then specifically as an actor, like you're really taught, like that's what you have to do. Like your
Yeah.
page has to be not just actor stuff, it can be your real life stuff, but it's all got to fit in this same, box that you need to fit yourself into. And then once you get successful in that box, you can branch out and
I
do what
said
you
no,
want.
thank
And,
you.
it's
But that's
so,
like what we're taught as actors. Like a
yeah,
lot of
literally.
advice to young actors is to do that. And I'm like, I can't. This isn't real.
I
Like,
know.
I
I mean,
can't.
that's this. It's a weird thing because, like, you're told it's important a lot. You're
Mhm.
in. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, look, it's amazing that you have like a platform that, like, if you have like a successful social media following, whatever, you can tell millions of people about whatever project, whatever thing it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a really special opportunity, but I do wonder if sometimes, if that importance is overstated.
Mhm.
um you know a lot
Right.
of the people that I respect are not on social media, and I
Yeah.
don't know, I've like the more that I do this job, the more that I find myself kind of stepping away from it.
Mhm.
um at the end of the day, as an actor, I don't know, like, a lot of the actors that I respect, be it whatever, Kate Blanchett, or I don't know, Gary Oldman, Robert De Niro, someone like
Yeah.
that. I don't really want to know what their couch looks like.
Yeah.
I don't want to see their dinner, really. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to know. I don't want, like, updates from moment to moment. I think that
Mhm.
there is a little bit of a mystique that I personally find intriguing in performers. And while everyone is very obsessed with relatability, when it's curated or designed for people, is that at all relatable? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
I would rather, I don't know. I sometimes I see sometimes I see these hashtag relatable posts of people who have been very successful for very long periods of time, and they're in their
Yeah.
very fancy kitchens or living rooms, and they're talking about their personal chef, and they're talking about, like, can you believe that so and so did this in such a way, where I'm just kind of like, no one relates to you.
Yeah.
No one relates to this.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that, like,
Sure.
whatever, you're able to live your life the way that you are, and good for you. Maybe don't fly so many private jets and kill our environment, but whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting a little heated on this one. But I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the individual. And if you
Yep.
have like a cause, that you believe in. I think that's cool to be able to spread that awareness. I think it's cool if you want to put out your genuine self, but to feel like there has to be this pressure of this designed personality, and that is in some way going to get you hired or make you a actor that people like. I don't know. I think good work at the end of the day speaks for itself more than anything. And, hopefully people focus on doing good work more than trying to craft a narrative.
Yeah, agreed.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for stepping on the Femme Regard soapbox. We get people there.
I stepped up early. I got on my soapbox and I sounded the alarms.
Hey, fam, have you heard us raving about Jambox yet? Because let me tell you, it's such an amazing tool for filmmakers, podcasters, advertisers, and anyone who needs music for their projects.
Jambox.io is so versatile. They've got songs and sound effects, organized by artist, genre, mood, and tags.
And they're actually affordable. For as little as $9.99 a month for independent creators, $6 a month for students, or $19.99 a song, you can choose whether a subscription-based membership or a la carte pricing works better for you. And they're flexible. For individual creators, to commercial, to advertising, to theatrical release, they've got you covered.
Plus, they're constantly growing and evolving, with new songs and playlists all the time and customer service on point. They really do have everything you need.
We've been working with them for a while now and couldn't be happier. That's why we have a special coupon code for our listeners.
For 10% off your purchase, make sure you enter code FEMME10 at checkout. That's Femme, Femme, 10 at jambox.io, where they connect creators with ridiculously good music and sound effects.
No, I think that because we talk about it regularly, because we feel the pressures as creatives as well. Like with, I'm glad we have this show. This really helps us keep in touch with our community and find more amazing people that we're literally bringing on a team from this show, from the people we've connected with to work on our feature. So that's all great. But at what point does it distract me from making sure my script is like perfected and like, like the real work? And I always go back and forth. And so, you know what, if I feel like I'm getting too distracted, I have to like literally tell myself like, stop, like it's going to be okay. Don't give into the pressures. It'll be fine. Go work on your script. Or like, you know what? Let's get back to that one post. Let's log it in the calendar, whatever, the social calendar. Totally. And we'll get back because I constantly feel that pressure. So it's nice for you to share like your insight on that as someone who's successful, for people that are listening to and look up to like, they feel that pressure. I mean, at the end of the day,
when I'm working, like I've realized that I just need to like completely like, I put the phone in another room. Like I alerts, everything turned off. If I'm like writing or something like that, that has to be in a different place or else I'm not going to be able to focus. And like, I don't know about you, but like, I find that when I'm writing, obviously there are things that you have to like research or Google or quickly look up. And so much of the time, like I'll go on the internet just to look at that. And then like, I realized that I've been reading Wikipedia articles about like cat breeds or something for 4 hours. And I'm like,
oh my God, I do the same thing. Phantom Limbs. Phantom Limbs was my last one. No, I was like, I started getting YouTube stuff and I was like, holy shit.
Inventors,
where did we go?
Inventors killed by their own creations. That's my favorite Wikipedia page.
I love that.
Phantom Limbs is good though too.
Thank you.
Well, I want to pivot a little bit to talk about Paradise Highway. So listeners, if you haven't listened to last week's episode with Anna, the writer-director of the movie, make sure you check that out as well, because we really dive into the content of the movie and where the story came from and everything. But I want to talk to you, Cameron, about your experience with it. So you play this FBI agent. I want to talk about, first of all, what it was like to work with Morgan Freeman so closely. And then also, I think it's really interesting that Anna said she had brought on like an actual FBI agent to really kind of consult with and figure out the language and like what would really happen and stuff. And I'm just curious if you got to really be a part of that, or if it was more for like her writing process, but how that all kind of worked together.
Yeah, so I play Special Agent Finley Sterling, who is a young FBI agent who recently graduated from Yale. He's been working a desk job at the FBI for a couple of years, and he requests to have field experience. So he gets assigned human trafficking and sexual slavery. And so his first case is a murder case related to sex trafficking. And he gets assigned a experienced former agent played by Morgan Freeman, who has been doing this job in the story for over 50 years at this point.
Wow.
So I'm this kind of green, young, ambitious agent coming in,
Mhm.
and I'm very by the book. And he is a agent with seniority who has kind of given up on these systems a long time ago and is sort of just doing things on his own terms now. And he has the seniority to kind of be able to get away with it and pull it off. So our
Right.
characters are very at odds with each other. You know, my guy, because he is not, he's a little bit out of his depth and he's not fully experienced. I didn't want him to feel like he knew everything because he shouldn't.
Mhm.
But that being said, I did do a fair amount of research on my own terms just to understand what this world was that he was coming from. You know, Finley isn't experienced, but he's not unintelligent. He's very smart and he does care. He just doesn't know how to necessarily go about it in the correct way, and that's something that he's kind of learning through the job. And so Anna did do a quite amount of research while writing this story, and she had a fair amount of resources for me to look at,
Mhm.
be it from a lot of these organizations, you know, Not for Sale, Thorn. There's so many um, uh, resources for the stuff. Specifically, what was staggering upon first getting involved with this project was just the statistics,
Yeah.
just the numbers.
Yeah. I can
You know,
imagine.
it's the situation is so much more dire than what I understood, and I think most people do, specifically in the United States. I think that there's an arrogance that we think that we're in some way exempt from these issues, and to be honest, we're probably worse than many
Yeah.
places, most places. And so learning about that was a huge eye opener. Um, Anna had yes this FBI former FBI agent who gave her a fair amount of advice. And I heard a little bit of that, and then I also did some independent research as well.
Mhm.
There's a former FBI agent by the name of Jerry Williams, who she has a podcast, and she interviewed a couple people who were specializing in the same field as what Sterling did. And
Interesting.
so those podcasts were a few hours long each, and it was really interesting hearing what they had to say about it. Something that jumped out immediately was, for as much as these are systems with rule books and procedures and laws and everything, I really admired that at least the people that she had on the podcast
Mhm.
really regarded all the victims as individuals, as
Mhm.
people, as kids with their own experience, with their own things that they're being deprived of, and seeing them as their own individual stories. I
Yeah.
think was a really um, beautiful thing, and difficult as well.
Yeah.
Look, this subject matter is it is bleak by nature, and I think that a lot of times when we hear words like human trafficking, our brains can kind of shut off.
I was just
Like,
gonna say, totally.
and what I think is really special about Anna's script and how the feature turned out, is that it's a human story. It's
Mhm.
about individuals, and for as dark as the subject matter is, there's beauty to it, and there's something that is alive and human. And I think that if you can personalize these stories, you can build an awareness and a relatability to a subject matter that otherwise might be unpalatable or too difficult to be able to process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I'm just like soaking all of that in and how that could, it's, I think that helps people relate to it naturally too, without just completely shutting it off when you see, like, know you're going into a story like this. And how did you feel like your character helped aid that, I guess, in a way? Was there something that your character also brought that could keep the audience member from feeling so like this is going to a really dark place, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, and they should,
Yeah.
I guess I should just quickly say what the plot is. So,
Yeah.
Juliette Binoche is a truck driver who is running contraband as favors for her brother, who is in prison, and basically to offer her brother, played by Frank Grillo, protection in prison, she's moving illegal goods. And she has hired on to do a job where she's supposed to move a package, and she finds out this package is a 12-year-old girl, played by Hala Finley, who is being traded for sexual slavery. And this goes wrong pretty quickly, and someone ends up dead. And my character, this young FBI agent, comes to this murder scene and is pursuing whoever was the killer,
Right.
with Morgan Freeman on the road. So the movie is kind of it is in two separate parts. We have this truck driver and this young girl together, and then we have these two FBI agents together who are pursuing them. And it's kind of this cat and mouse game where we don't necessarily want the mouse to be caught.
Yeah.
You know, we start to really understand this dynamic between Hala Finley and Juliette Binoche's character, and there's something really warm and lovely about that dynamic. And I think that for my character, Morgan Freeman's character, it's the source of a lot of necessary humor and lightness in the story. Situationally, they're kind of just very at odds with each other. And while it's not like full, I don't know, it's not a buddy cop situation, but they are people with their own priorities, and there's something that is really funny about seeing how they interact with each other. So much of like what I was doing as a performer was just making sure that there was a rapport between these two characters, and that's pretty easy to do when you have someone as talented as Mr. Morgan Freeman that you're acting across from.
Yeah, I'm sure that was an experience. And, you know, like, not just because he is like an A-list actor, but because he's been doing it for so long and he's had so much experience. And, you know, I'm sure played many, I mean, I know he's played FBI agents before, but like so many characters like that, to get to work with someone that really has done it before for so long, you know, I'm sure was quite an experience as an actor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that was kind of something that was unique about that was that obviously Morgan is a massively experienced and respected actor, and you know, I certainly grew up with him as one of my heroes, as I think most of us have. You know, and obviously I am a younger actor who, while I've been doing it a long time, still certainly in comparison am very much at the start of my career. And I think that is reflected in the characters themselves. There's a very similar dynamic between the two of them. I think my character has less respect for his character than what I have for him in reality. But I think that you know, that is credit to the writing and the casting to kind of create a situation that feels very reflective of the reality. and so it was kind of finding that dynamic and channeling it into the characters, but also at the same time making sure that my reverence for him as a performer, as a professional, does not get in the way of my own performance, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
you can't be an audience member in your own scene.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
you know, it was important to not just come in as a tourist, and to come in with my own ideas and my own work.
Yeah.
And that was something that Anna was very good about. She met with me a number of times prior to shooting, and we talked about the character, the dialogue from scene to scene, figured out what his backstory was, what his home life, what is everything beyond what was on the page. And to be fair, there was some stuff already on the page, but making sure that we knew exactly who he was and what his arc was going to be, and that he was three-dimensional, so that I was showing up on the day fully ready and ready to be there and prepared.
Yeah.
And you know, Morgan had done his own work, and you know, him and I would run dialogue for the next scene while we were doing whatever the prior scene was. So we would just be on the side, quickly figuring it out, running, and he would always have questions, always interesting, smart questions about what these characters are asking, what they're saying, what they're doing, why they want it, what, you know.
Right.
And he would throw it out to Anna, and she was very capable in that department, where she always had a good response.
Yeah.
Credit to her research and her awareness of these characters.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, he would challenge me too. You know, he'd say, Cameron, like, you know, come on now, what do you want? What are you doing here? You know, and
Yeah.
he would say, and he kept me on my toes. And so we would do these rehearsals prior, and then when the shot was actually set up for the scene, we would do 1 or 2 takes for each one of these shots. You know,
Wow.
we would never do more than that. We never needed to.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was an amazing thing. It was also like, it's different than the way I've worked on a lot of things before. And it was kind of a shock in some degrees. Like, you know, we would Anna cover these scenes very simply and very quickly. And you might only do this dialogue in this context a couple times before it was done. And there were a few times that we did these scenes where I was just like, it's over. It's already done. Feels like we haven't even sat down to do it yet. But you know, credit to her. She knew exactly what she wanted. And yeah, I'm proud of what we got. So
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that different, more like simple, but like you understand your characters so well that it was as easy as shooting it just the couple times it needed, versus maybe on your other sets, like really like doing more exploration, I guess, within that moment?
yeah, you know, I it's hard to say whether I enjoy that more or less. It certainly is different within the context of this movie. I think that it was important to do. We were under budgetary and time limitations,
Yeah.
you know, and
Sure.
also Morgan Freeman is a older actor who is extremely experienced, and he's at an age now where you don't want to have this guy sitting around doing endless takes for no reason. You want to know what you
Yeah.
want, you know. And
Yeah, for sure.
so I think that it was important to honor to everybody to make sure that you know, all the groundwork was laid so that it was there immediately. And yeah, I mean, I think that there is something about that it keeps it alive and fresh. I mean, the fact that you have such a limited opportunity makes it, it's like, that is like, it's like life. You do things once, and you either did it or you didn't do it. So you have to try to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot about talent and professionalism from Anna, from you, from Morgan, and that all of you were able to pull that off. Kudos to all of you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, I want to make sure that our listeners, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and listen to that. Make sure you see Paradise Highway, just came out last week, July 29th, in select theaters and on streaming VOD. And Cameron, if you would like to share, of course, going back to social media, but anything like that you would like to share for our listeners, your website, any other work even that's coming up, anything like that you would like our listeners to know about.
No, yeah, I don't care about my whatever social media stuff. It's my name, but I don't post anything anymore, so who cares? No, just see this movie. It's something that we're really proud of. You can get it on demand now, so go watch it. And I don't know, man. I got some stuff coming up, but honestly, we'll talk about it when we get there. So yeah.
Fair enough.
And go listen to the other podcast too. Listen to Anna's podcast.
Yes. No, I'm excited to go watch the film. So thank you for everyone on the team to put out such an important, I think, message and story, and really looking forward to it. And thank you for sharing your insight to your world and how the whole process went down. It was really fun.
Thank you so
to
much.
Also, our tangents.
I love it.
I love it.
We
I
got
love a
on the
good tangent.
soapbox.
We did.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.